Just 2 weeks into their marriage, Mary and John found out about Mary's pregnancy. The news brought immense joy to both, as they eagerly anticipated the expansion of their family. John's support for Mary never wavered. He joined her at every doctor's appointment and stood by her side during ultrasounds, demonstrating his commitment to both Mary and their unborn child. During a routine checkup, the doctor reassured them of their baby's health and strength. As they watched the monitor, John tenderly brushed Mary's hair, smiling with anticipation. Mary was grateful for John's shared excitement for their child. Together, they lovingly prepared the nursery, choosing furniture and clothing for their little one. At 28 weeks, Mary celebrated her impending parenthood with a baby shower among close friends. Suddenly, intense contractions gripped her stomach, leading her to cry out in pain. "Ouch!" she exclaimed, grabbing her belly as waves of pain surged through her. Her concerned friends rushed to her side, asking if she was all right. Struggling to speak through the pain, Mary replied, "I'm experiencing intense contractions. I think we need to get to the hospital. Can you help me?" Her friend Helen quickly responded, "Of course. I'll also call John and let him know," assisting Mary as she rose from her chair. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed that Mary was in labor. Shortly after John's arrival, Mary began the birthing process. To everyone's surprise, the first baby born was a girl. "It's a girl," announced the doctor. John, still holding on to Mary, asked in confusion, "How is that possible? The ultrasound showed a boy. Remember our conversation and wish at the cafe that night? We both wanted a daughter." Before they could fully absorb the revelation, the doctor interjected, "Wait. I see another head. It's not over yet. It's a boy." Indeed, Mary and John had welcomed 2 healthy babies. Before Mary could react, another scream escaped her as another baby arrived swiftly. John was in stunned disbelief. He had expected to welcome just one baby boy, but now he had 3 children to love and care for. Mary was wheeled into the recovery room while the triplets remained in the neonatal intensive care unit, needing a few days before they could go home due to their premature births at 28 weeks. Meanwhile, John was left to ponder the unexpected situation. He sought answers from Mary's doctor. "How is this possible? Why did we not know about the triplets earlier?" The doctor explained, "Sometimes ultrasounds don't reveal everything at once, especially if the fetuses are too small. They can also hide behind each other, making detection difficult. You and Mary are incredibly fortunate. This happens in only 1 in a million pregnancies." Instead of feeling elated, John felt disheartened. The prospect of raising 3 children simultaneously didn't excite him. While Mary and the children remained in the hospital, John stayed at home. Before leaving, he told Mary, "Let me know when you're all set to come home." It took 5 more days before Mary and the children, named James, Anna, and Charles, were discharged. Mary anticipated John's joy at their return home. However, their journey back was marked by awkward silence. "Is everything all right?" Mary asked her husband. He shrugged and murmured as they reached home. John inquired if the children needed anything. Mary smiled, thinking he was finally adjusting to the demands of triplet care. The kids ran out of diapers at the hospital. "Could you buy some from the store?" she asked. John nodded. "Sure, I'll be back soon," he replied before leaving the house. Meanwhile, Mary eagerly tended to the triplets. Being placed in a separate ward at the hospital, this was her first chance to care for them alone. "Hello there, my little darlings," she cooed, gently placing each baby into a crib. "Daddy want to get more diapers for you. Please be patient, all right? It's not time for any messy surprises yet," she whispered to her babies. Once the kids were peacefully asleep, Mary decided to start dinner. Unsure of how long they'd nap, she chose a quick mac and cheese recipe, anticipating John's return. However, as time went by, John remained absent, and the triplets began crying simultaneously, overwhelming Mary, who couldn't tend to all of them at once. Desperate to reach him, Mary called John's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hey, where are you? Is everything okay? I'm getting worried. Please call me back," she pleaded, leaving a message. Mary anxiously waited, dialing John's number time and again. However, another hour slipped by, and his phone remained switched off. Her anxiety growing, she decided to call 911, seeking any information. "I just need to confirm if his number is still active. My husband hasn't come home, and I'm distressed thinking he might have had an accident," Mary conveyed to the dispatcher, her voice trembling with worry. The dispatcher checked John's number and discovered that it was active. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but there's no accident. Your husband is currently driving on the interstate freeway," the dispatcher informed her. Overwhelmed, Allison broke down crying, her children's cries echoing hers in the background. What did I do to deserve this? She wondered, feeling the weight of being alone with her 3 newborn triplets. Filled with fear and barely clinging to hope, Mary decided to visit Frank, John's closest friend. In search of answers the following morning. Upon her knock, Frank greeted her warmly, recognizing the shared bond he had with John. "Hey, Allison, please come in. It's nice to see you," he said, offering her coffee. Mary accepted, her heart pounding with the desire for answers. "I know John's behavior seems odd," Frank began, placing her coffee on the table. "But to me, it's not surprising." Frank had seen John after he had left. "Yes, we talked and even argued about it," Frank explained, noticing Mary's mounting anxiety. "I tried to convince him to stay and take care of you and the babies, but he refused." Mary's coffee grew cold as she processed Frank's admission, which only deepened her hurt. "Was there nothing else?" she queried, desperation in her voice. Frank sensed Mary's disappointment and decided to disclose everything he knew about John, who had left her alone with the babies. "I think there's more you need to know," Frank added. Mary was surprised, having always believed Frank knew the details of her relationship with John. "Do you remember the first time you met him?" Frank asked. Tears brimmed in Mary's eyes as she recalled that unforgettable day. "Of course, it was a Friday. I was at work, saw you with a group, celebrating someone's birthday," she reminisced, recalling John's exuberant laugh. "Yes, Sam's birthday," Frank acknowledged. "But there's something else." Mary's tears flowed freely as she remembered John's gaze from across the room. "There was a serious deal made that day," Frank continued, suddenly arresting her attention. "What kind of deal?" Mary inquired, startled. After hesitating, Frank proceeded with caution. "Mary, this may be difficult, but John bet $1,000 to sleep with you that night," he revealed, weighed down by the disclosure. Sam thought it was an easy bet and also offered John $1,000 if he could date you for a month. Mary's shock was palpable. "A bet? To sleep with me?" she gasped. As Mary's mind reeled, Frank revealed more about John's nature. The truth is, John had never taken relationships seriously. What began as a joke turned serious. Mary's voice quivered as realization dawned. "So, he courted and married me just for money?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "No, not at all. He genuinely developed feelings for you," Frank clarified. "Things changed once you two began dating, and getting married was natural. But as things got more serious, John felt trapped." Frank continued, "He was afraid of committing and pulled away, especially when he had other affairs." "Affairs?" Mary couldn't hide her alarm. "Yes, that's how John was," Frank concluded, leaving Mary to confront the deep hurt and betrayal. Hiding the truth seemed second nature to him. Unfortunately, he chose to keep you in the dark. At one point, he considered divorcing you, but he lacked the courage to see it through. If he truly wanted a divorce, why did he remain? Why didn't he leave earlier? Allison's voice quivered through her tears. "I'm not entirely sure, but your pregnancy definitely took him aback. He wasn't prepared for it, yet he attempted to keep everything together to spare you any pain. He did his best, but when you delivered triplets, he panicked. That was the breaking point for him. Overwhelmed, he felt leaving was his only option, leaving you and the children behind." Frank exclaimed, "Oh my God." Mary sobbed, "You've been visiting regularly. You could have informed me earlier. John left me alone with the babies. What am I supposed to do now? I'm so bewildered. How will I manage without him?" Allison feared the thought of single-handedly raising her children amid numerous challenges. Her head pounded from hours of tears, yet they wouldn't cease. She paced back and forth in Frank's living room while attempting to call John, but his phone remained off. "Take it easy, Allison. You need to calm down, have some water." "Give me 5 minutes and I'll drive you home," Frank offered. Frank then drove Mary back to her house. Upon arrival, she sincerely thanked her neighbor, who had looked after her triplets in her absence, wearing a forced smile. Allison quickly dismissed the woman and invited Frank inside. "They are beautiful," Allison commented, gently caressing the heads of each baby. "John shouldn't have left. He ought to have stayed, at least for his children if not for you," Frank remarked. After Frank departed, Allison endeavored to soothe her emotions, breastfeeding her infants before placing them in their cribs. Exhausted and restless, she found no solace even in tears. Time slowly passed, and eventually, she drifted off beside her sleeping babies. The following morning, a loud doorbell startled Mary, causing her to jump from a restless sleep. "John," she called out, rushing to the door, only to be disappointed by who stood there. "Frank," she muttered as her hopes fell.
"Come in."
"I tried calling, but you didn't answer," she informed him as he entered, carrying a large bag of diapers and baby supplies. "Hold on, I have more in my car, I'll get them." Mary was taken aback by Frank's surprise visit and even more so by the care he showed for her children. "Would you like some coffee?" she offered. "No, thank you, I have to be going." "Perhaps another time," Frank replied. With Frank's assistance, Allison found some relief. She had been wrestling with the daunting responsibility of raising 3 children alone, and supplies like diapers were running low. The initial days were extremely difficult for Mary, but things turned for the better as Frank began visiting frequently and lending his support. Gradually, Mary recognized she couldn't bear the responsibility without Frank's backing. He consistently went above and beyond to assist her, guiding her towards a future she could focus on. Frank even volunteered to watch over her triplets while she attended job interviews. Not long after, Mary secured a position as an attorney at a private law firm. Her days were now a balance of work and childcare, with Frank's unwavering support acting as a pivotal anchor. Despite Mary's initial hesitance, she couldn't deter him from providing the attention and care her kids deserved. Over time, James, Anna, and Charles grew fond of Frank. They no longer pestered Mary for trips to amusement parks on weekends or argued about not receiving lavish Christmas gifts. Frank naturally assumed the role of a father figure, doing everything he could for them. His affection for the children gradually softened Allison's heart, and she found herself developing feelings for him. Eventually, Allison and Frank began dating. Though they were careful and went slow, the priority was ensuring the kids were comfortable with Frank in the fatherly role. Once they had the children's blessing, Mary and Frank held a modest wedding ceremony and became husband and wife. 12 years passed, bringing many changes, although the wounds John left on Mary's heart persisted. Both Allison and Frank prospered in their careers, raising 3 outstanding children together. Everything appeared to be progressing well, until one day, Mary's secretary informed her of a package awaiting her signature from a client. "The courier is on the way," the secretary noted. As they eagerly waited for Mary to sign, Allison stepped out, shocked to find herself face-to-face with John, her ex-husband. She invited him to her office, seeking explanations for everything John had ever done to her 12 years ago. John hesitantly followed Allison to her spacious, blue-adorned office on the 3rd floor. Encountering his former spouse was unexpected for John, whom he had abandoned. Mary reflected aloud as she got comfortable in her swiveling chair, having rehearsed this moment countless times before a mirror. The sight of her here was astonishing to John, witnessing how she had transformed over time. "Initially, I longed for your return, even nurturing the hope that you'd reconsider your decision. However, as I discovered some truths, my feelings towards you shifted from love to hate," she stated. "Don't you find it strange that our paths cross here today? Though I've not much to say now, one question lingers. How could you do this to me, John?" John, admitting his fault, confessed, It's not solely my wrongdoing, Mary. I was aware of my mistakes but felt cornered, unprepared for the rapid pace of our relationship, marriage, and fatherhood. I was merely a frightened youth at the time. You were 27, not a youngster, Mary exclaimed. You should have been ready. Or, do I need to remind you? What did I do to you? Have you forgotten the wager with your friend Sam? Mary accused as she settled down. You chased after me, feigning happiness in our marriage and fatherhood, while living a lie and cheating with multiple women. The moment you had enough, you fled, leaving me behind with triplets. John was taken aback, expecting retaliation for abandoning her and their offspring, but not her knowledge of the BET, his affairs, and his failure in parental duties. How did you uncover all this? Who informed you? He queried. Frank, she disclosed. He supported the children and me after your flight. His assistance allowed us to survive, doing what you should have. John wondered aloud, wait, are you and Frank wed? Silence was the response, yet John was unsurprised. Another idea surfaced in his mind, seeing a potential chance to extort money from Frank. It was actually Frank, not Sam. He had a bet concerning Allison, concealing it from her. Huh, Frank? John thought. I ought to pay you a visit and teach you about honesty with Allison. You should be grateful for my departure, he said, nearing her. I've got nothing left, a demeaning job, mounting debts. Had I known about your wealth, I'd seek your aid. Are you drunk, John? Mary retorted angrily. What else should I anticipate? It figures. Allison, assist me, I need funds, John implored. Assist you? After deserting the children and me? Did you ever think of us? Then why should I aid you? Go away. I never wish to see you again. Stay clear of my life, Allison insisted, and swiftly ousted John from her presence. As John left bitterly, he plotted to meet his ex-wife post-work, loitering at a nearby cafe. So, this is where she dwells with her new spouse, he mused, observing Allison hug Frank at their entrance, their children playing nearby. Returning the next day since Mary had left for work, he startled Frank with a knock. John, before Frank could voice his surprise, John barged in, settling on the couch. How did you locate us? My closest friend seducing my spouse in secret. Really impressive, John Jared. Frank, visibly shaken, inquired about John's motives. What do you seek here, John? How could you do this? Knowing my love for her? If you really did, Frank argued, you wouldn't have abandoned your family. Remember our cafe bet? Her charm captivated us both. Yet I won, recollected John, eyeing Frank's lavish abode. I cherished her pregnancy announcement. Though being unprepared, I welcomed it until overwhelmed by triplets. Unable to cope, I left. Frank countered. Genuine love doesn't run from responsibilities. But John dismissed his concerns, proposing an odd request. I want nothing more but $5,000. Why $5,000? Frank repeated in disbelief. It's hush money for personal matters and debts. In exchange, your secret safe, preserving your marriage with Allison. Consider the fallout if, John explained that she discovered our bet on her. After reflecting on this unexpected situation, Frank agreed reluctantly. But I need some time, he added. Okay, I'll see you soon, JN responded, giving Frank an encouraging pat on the shoulder. Remember, Saturday is the cutoff day, JN added. By Friday afternoon, Frank had withdrawn $5,000 from the joint account with Mary, hoping she wouldn't notice. Unbeknownst to him, Mary received a notification on her phone about a $5,000 transaction. Why does Frank need such a large amount? Allison wondered, concerned. Hey, it's okay, she told him. It's our money. But why didn't you inform me about needing $5,000? Is everything all right? Did something happen unexpectedly? Frank, seeing no way out, felt compelled to confess to Mary about JN's threat to reveal their bet. I was afraid of losing you, Allison, he confessed. I love you dearly and can't imagine life without you and the kids. To his surprise, Mary started laughing. Instead of her expected outburst, she left him speechless with her reaction. Frank, she chuckled, do you really think I'd leave you for a drunken just rebounding on us? I dislike John, not for this silly bet, but for having abandoned me with the triplets. It's history now, Frank. She reassured him. We'll discuss more when I get home, Mary said, finishing the call. Frank remained shocked. Mary didn't resent him for what he had done. When Allison returned home, Frank asked for her forgiveness, trying to offer more explanations. Mary reassured him she had forgiven him and simply wished for their happiness moving forward. Let me make us something to eat, Allison proposed as she headed to the kitchen. Deep in thought, she reflected, perhaps I could feel pity for that troubled addict, but resorting to blackmail crossed the line. Driven by a sense of justice, Allison quickly communicated her decision to Frank. She announced her intent to report John's deeds to the authorities, holding firm that his malicious acts shouldn't go unaddressed. Understanding the significance and the moral necessity to act against such behavior, Frank fully backed Allison's decision. Together, they diligently gathered and documented all evidence they could about John's threats, blackmail attempts, and evasion of alimony. Armed with substantial documentation, they approached local law enforcement to ensure justice was served. Authorities were impressed by their thorough investigation and compelling evidence, promptly initiating an official inquiry into John's conduct. It wasn't long before the truth surfaced, unveiling John's reprehensible actions to legal scrutiny. A swift and meticulous investigation followed, building a solid case against JN. The gravity of his transgressions became evident as he faced the consequences of his conduct. John was soon apprehended, arrested for blackmail, and avoiding alimony for over a decade. His arrest sent shockwaves through the community as people learned of his deceit and the suffering he'd caused Allison's family. Authorities, determined to uphold justice, pursued the legal actions with resolve. John's trial turned into a significant event, attracting widespread attention. The evidence presented painted a damning picture of his character, while witness testimonies underscored his manipulation and indifference toward others' welfare. In court, John's facade disintegrated under the weight of his crimes. Acknowledging the seriousness of his offenses, the judge imposed a stringent sentence. His sentence underscored a firm stance against exploitation and blackmail. With John imprisoned, Allison and Frank experienced renewed security and closure. Their brave pursuit of justice not only protected their family, but potentially prevented future victims of John's schemes. They hoped John's arrest served as a deterrent against similar conduct, ensuring others' safety and well-being. For Allison and Frank, solace came from the knowledge that their love and resilience triumphed. This ordeal strengthened their bond, fortifying their resolve to face future challenges together with confidence.